Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rebecca Cunningham, the Vice President for Research here at the University of Michigan and a Professor of Emergency Medicine and Public Health. I'm very pleased to join you today for the inaugural Bold Challenges webinar. We formally launched Bold Challenges last week, but there was an enormous amount of work done behind the scenes to develop the framework for this new research initiative. A special thanks to Professor Dawn Tilbury, Nick Wigington, and Christina Coe for their tremendous work over the past 6 months to build up Bold Challenges. Now, this is where you, the U of M research community, comes into play. All of you have incredible strengths as it relates to the research and scholarship, and through this new initiative, we plan to help align those strengths with specific challenges and priorities as identified by our partners in government, industry, and philanthropy. I should note that Bold Challenges does not intend to accomplish this feat on its own. We're partnering with over 18 and growing existing interdisciplinary research centers and institutes at U of M to hope to better integrate our faculty across the social and technical sciences. Our plan is to then collaborate with external partners so that we can help generate impactful solutions to 6 societal challenges: resilient, equitable, and carbon neutral physical infrastructure, sustainable and equitable solutions for the housing crisis, healthy adaptation to climate change, universal access to healthy water, better health outcomes through better built environments, and smart healthcare systems for equitable access. The primary goal here is to aid in catalyzing actionable knowledge on the critical problems of our time and to aid in aligning researchers with federal and philanthropic partners. By leveraging the collective expertise that is already embedded in our centers and institutes, we all have a great opportunity to be part of something that can impact society for years to come that is bigger than the sum of the parts. My colleagues will share more details here about the various support structures and programs put in place to advance these bold ideas. But in closing, I wanted to thank you for all of your interest and participation and for joining us today to hear about this new initiative. Your leadership and research expertise is essential if we expect to meet the challenges that we face in a world of rapid change and to continue our contributions to the public good. I will now turn this over to Professor Dawn Tilbury, our Associate Vice President for Research, who is leading the new Bold initiatives. Thank you, Dawn.
Oh, thanks, Rebecca. It's great to be here with you today and to tell you a little bit about this Bold Challenges effort that we're launching. So let me pull up my slides here. Hope you can all see that. So thank you for the introduction. If you haven't met me, I've been on the faculty here at the University of Michigan since 1995, and I just returned from a 4-year term in DC, leading NSF's Engineering Directorate. I'll present this plan for Bold Challenges, including the topics that Rebecca mentioned that we've identified to align U of M's strengths with emerging research priorities. Then I'll present the 4 phases of a process that we've developed to create and support research teams to work on these important problems. One thing I'd like you to keep in mind as I go through the presentation is that this effort is not supposed to replace all of the wonderful things we're already doing at U of M in the schools and colleges and all of the cross-campus centers and institutes. This effort is intended to augment and synergize with all of that great work that's already happening. We're adding a focus on specific topics, plus some structure and continuity. I'll invite you to put any questions you have into the Q&A box as they come up. We'll take time at the end to answer those questions. So we believe there's value in collecting our efforts around a few big problems. The University of Michigan has strengths in the social sciences that are so important for these topics, as well as significant technical expertise, and we'll need to work together to develop innovative research solutions to address these really important problems. Data suggests that the U of M is very strong at small scale or bottom-up PI-driven funding, but not as successful at large-scale team-based research. We think that what teams need is facilitation and staff support, connections to external experts on campus and off, some resources, and especially continuity, not just a big chunk of funds and a wish for, well, good luck on your proposal. Now, I will note that this program is not intended to actually fund the research that will be done by those teams. The goal is to give the teams the structure and support they need to be able to raise the funds externally. There are many pots of seed funding across campus, in the schools and colleges, in the centers and institutes, and we'll work to match teams with those resources as we move along. Some teams may already have some seed funding and still be looking for this structured support and continuity. As Rebecca mentioned, we've identified 6 topics to focus on in this Bold Challenges program, all of them at the intersections of sustainability, infrastructure, health, and equity. We believe these are critical areas for research in need of innovative solutions from interdisciplinary teams. These topics are important to the federal government, they're important to the state of Michigan, and they're important to society, and they're of interest to donors. They all build on strengths we have at Michigan in the social sciences and the technical side, and include water, energy, healthcare, the built environment, including mobility, and many more. Each topic is broad enough to encompass several different approaches. However, they intentionally don't span our entire research enterprise. The quantum internet is definitely important, but is not directly a part of the Bold Challenges program. A bit of history about this program. An advisory group charged by Rebecca started meeting in January of this year. I came on board in July after my term at NSF was finished. We've presented back to that advisory group, met with the partnering centers and institutes, presented to the executive officers, the deans, and the research associate deans. You probably saw the article in the record last week, and here we are at the webinar. Activities will launch in January and continue through 2022. I'll walk briefly through the 4 phases of what we call this research accelerator. The first phase is pollination, where interested faculty come together and meet each other around a specific problem, and especially engage external stakeholders, such as community representatives and industry, at a very early stage of the research idea formation. Having the external stakeholders involved at an early stage can help the brainstorming be directed to real-world problems. Now, kernels of teams that come out of these workshops will be offered a couple more facilitated sessions where they can invite faculty who weren't at the workshop or external partners they'd like to engage before they submit their application for the next phase, which is called team formation. Now, this is a semester-long program where a group of faculty will really try to solidify their team and their problem. Now, this team could have met during one of those pollination workshops. They could have come out of one of the centers and institutes. Or my favorite way to form interdisciplinary research teams in Ann Arbor is to meet on the sidelines of children's soccer games. So we see the needs of these teams as they come together are structured support, such as project management, and a little bit of seed funding. Again, not enough to actually do significant research. There are other places to get that funding. However, the external stakeholders, such as community groups or industry, can be engaged in these team formation activities, and the staff support can really help make and sustain those connections. One of the deliverables from this semester of support is a white paper that can be repurposed or packaged together with others for use with federal agencies or potential donors. Now, all teams that come out of the team formation will be expected to go to the 3rd phase, or incubation. They don't need to reapply. This 3rd phase, or incubation, is the primary new effort. We will also launch the incubation phase in the winter of 2022 for teams that already exist, working on topics related to one of the 6 Bold Challenges. This incubation program is based on the successful innovation track record at Stanford Research Institute and has been used for startup companies and more recently university research. Over this semester, the teams will work in this facilitated workshop to articulate their NABC, the need their research is addressing, what's the approach they will take, what's the benefit of that approach compared to the competition or other possible ways to solve the problem. It sounds like a very simple approach to define that value proposition, but it can really be challenging to get it right. Many faculty are so focused on their approach, they can lose sight of the broader picture. So this value creation forum will kick off with a 1-day workshop in January. Then the cohort of teams will meet for 90 minutes every 2 weeks to present their NABC, give each other feedback, and really hone their value propositions, which is a critical part of any proposal. This active learning approach, where the teams continue to practice and give and get feedback, has been shown to accelerate the process of creating a value proposition. Teams in the incubation phase will get the same level of staff support, part-time project manager, and a little bit of seed funding. Finally, the last phase is continuation or nurturing. Once the teams have gone through incubation, they still need support to keep their momentum while they refine their proposals, or even after their proposal is submitted before the decision is made. If they need more significant funds to actually start doing some research, we'll work with other partners across the university to try to find those funds. This Bold Challenge program is focused on the facilitation, staff support, and the framework. So why do we think faculty will be interested to apply to this program? As I mentioned before, it's not a huge pot of money. However, there will certainly be opportunities to meet potential collaborators, both from the University of Michigan and the external community, but there are lots of ways to do that now, so it's not a defining characteristic. We thought it was important to include that opportunity in this program so that all faculty across all 3 campuses would feel that they're invited to join the initiative. They don't already need to be connected to a larger group or working with one of these cross-campus centers. The staffing and facilitation support that we are offering to the teams in this program can help faculty do the work that needs to be done in any team. Scheduling and tracking meetings, following up on action items, inviting external partners to join, coordinating drafts of white papers, etc. Now, faculty can certainly do all those things, but having a project manager to keep track of the details can give the faculty members more time to think about the bigger picture and the research directions. The small amount of seed funding they get can be used to do a literature survey, pay external participants for their time as appropriate, do some small experiments, data analysis, whatever makes sense for the research project. And the white papers that teams will develop will be used by government relations to direct future funding opportunities, as well as by the development office to potentially engage donors. But I think the most exciting outcome is the opportunity to work on a team that's doing research that can really make a difference in the world and have an impact. It can be very rewarding and satisfying. So here are the criteria that we're going to use to select faculty and teams to come into these different phases. We all know the research on how a diversity of perspectives is important for coming up with innovative ideas. So that will be one of the primary criteria. For both the pollination workshops and the incubation phase, we're not necessarily looking for the best individuals or the best teams, but the best cohort that will be able to work together and brainstorm those new ideas or come up with the best team-based approaches. We do want to see faculty coming into this program who have some experience in getting external funding for the research, since that's the ultimate goal of the program. There are many other programs on campus for faculty who are new to writing proposals, and we can help point you to those. The things that we're doing are not all new, and we're trying to partner and leverage as much as we can. We have partnerships, as was mentioned, with many different centers and institutes who will co-sponsor the pollination workshops and recommend selections for the follow-on phases. A Dean's Advisory Group will get regular updates on the program and give high-level advice and direction. Finally, we're working closely with government relations and development to make sure that our activities are aligned and synergistic. The white papers that come out of the team formation and value creation phases will be used by government relations to inform legislators and other policymakers about new research directions that have the potential for societal impact. And the development team is also interested in those ideas, as donors like to fund research that has direct societal impact. Here you can see the list of the current cross-campus centers and institutes that we're partnering with, and we continue to meet with more. It's amazing when you start to think about how many great things are already going on around campus. Some of them will co-sponsor pollination workshops in the winter or spring, and all of them will serve on the Council of Institutes to recommend the people to be invited to the pollination workshops and the teams to move forward into the next phases. We hope to work closely with them to identify the right external partners to bring in, as well as to find any seed funding that they may have available for teams working in these 6 priority areas. This program is really intended to make significant impacts in these 6 bold ideas, societal challenges that are ripe for transformational research outcomes, building on key Michigan strengths. This process is not intended to substitute for all of the existing efforts on campus in the schools and colleges, the centers and institutes. Rather, we want to leverage those existing activities and give the extra targeted support that can really make a difference for these large-scale interdisciplinary convergent teams to be successful, not just in getting grants, but in enabling us to do research that can make a big difference in the world. I hope you've been inspired to apply to attend one of the upcoming pollination workshops, or maybe you're already working on a team that's interested to jump into the Value Creation Forum in the winter. This is just the beginning of the program. We will have at least 3 more workshops on the other 3 topics in April and May, so there'll be more opportunities to get involved in the future. You can go to the website and sign up to get notified of upcoming events and deadlines. Thank you for your attention. Again, feel free to put any questions into the Q&A box. And at this point, we'll open it up for questions. I'll stop my screen sharing and turn it over to Jill Jividen, who will introduce herself and moderate the Q&A. Jill, here you go.
Thanks so much, Dawn, and thanks everyone for joining us today. My name is Jill Jividen. I'm the Director of Research Development in OVPR. I will be moderating the questions as they come in. I am going to invoke moderator's privilege and start off as people are typing. I just first want to introduce Jeff Toon, who is our Associate Vice President for Research in the Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences, new to OVPR, as well as Lisa Prosser, who is our Associate Vice President for Research in the Health Sciences. They will help answer questions today along with Dawn. Jeff, I'm going to start off with a question for you. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about why we're focusing on social and technical sciences for these teams, and isn't the interdisciplinary research, pardon me, isn't that interdisciplinary research happening already over campus?
Thanks, Jill. I mean, you're absolutely right. There's a ton of interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary work happening across U of M, spanning social sciences and technical fields like engineering or medicine. What we're trying to encourage now is more closely integrating these 2 domains together from the beginning so that the collaborations are robust and not superficial or last minute, but truly baked in from the beginning. The big societal challenges we're talking about will not be solved by any one discipline working in a silo. The social elements, and in this case, we're often thinking about more applied or behavioral social sciences, including disciplines like policy, business, law, or urban design, are absolutely on equal footing with the technical elements in this program.
Thanks, Jeff. I'll have a question here for Lisa. Lisa, we're wondering if you could speak to how you see health sciences fitting in along social sciences in these teams.
Great, thanks so much. I'd be really happy to. So all of the challenges touch in some way on various elements of health, from health policy to healthcare delivery to public health. As we think about these grand societal challenges, health and well-being are directly relevant to most of them, from clean and accessible water to climate change. But we have 2 with potentially more space than others for the health sciences to play an active role. One we're calling better health outcomes through better built environments, which includes topics such as integrating urban design with public health interventions, addressing food insecurity in urban and rural communities, and improving air quality in low-income neighborhoods. The other focuses on improving healthcare systems for equitable access, which includes aligning healthcare policies and services with the needs, developing new technologies for increasing access to healthcare providers, and using data science to identify early risk factors of disease. But of course, there are many, many other potential research topics that could address these broad themes, and these are just a few specific examples. And as I mentioned at the beginning, health permeates across most of the areas, as do the other overarching themes of sustainability, infrastructure, and equity. So we look forward to a very broad range of proposals that address goals to improve health and well-being.
Thank you, Lisa. Dawn, I have a question for you. I'm wondering if you could expand a little bit on what you mentioned earlier and explain how we chose these 6 themes, and if there might be plans in the future to expand the themes or add new ones.
Well, thanks for that question. So these themes were chosen after a huge amount of input, meeting with the research deans, the directors of the centers and institutes, and especially looking at how University of Michigan's expertise aligns with the federal priorities. You can see in all of the documents coming out of both Congress and the White House that the importance of equity, health, sustainability, and infrastructure are really critical. So we've tried to take all of that input and be strategic to choose certain areas that are broad enough to bring in a large swath of our research community, but not necessarily everyone. We understand there are lots of things going on and lots of things that are important for the university, but we think by choosing some specific areas where we have the potential to really put a stake in the ground and make significant impacts with great societal outcomes, we'll be able to advance those fields much further and faster than we could if we tried to spread things out more evenly.
Thank you, Dawn. I've got, before we turn to the chat, there's one more here for Jeff. And Jeff, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about how this program is different from other interdisciplinary programs and services that are available to faculty and researchers around campus.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of efforts on campus aiming to catalyze research from seed funding to large-scale initiatives. This effort is not meant to supplant or replace those. Instead, it's meant to pull together a lot of these efforts in a strategic way to maximize their impact and strive to empower multidisciplinary teams to have impact in new ways. I think one of the key ways this differs from a lot of the other support mechanisms across the campus is the infusion of research development activities, that is, facilitated workshops, dedicated support staff, and the Value Creation Forum. These all signal a more intentional effort to position teams to be most competitive for external funding and make real world impact and provide the kind of supports that don't always exist within team structures themselves. This is something I'm super personally excited about, and I think it'll benefit our faculty and teams incredibly.
Don, we had a question come in. Could this initiative be used for newly established centers or initiatives? In other words, I think they're asking about teams that are already cohered.
So absolutely. I think a team that's already existing, if they're in one of the 6 bold challenges areas, we would encourage you to apply to participate in the Value Creation Forum in the winter semester. I think you might find it a very enlightening experience to start articulating what your NABC value proposition is. So I would encourage teams that already exist to apply to participate in that in the winter semester. Whether you're just getting started or you've been working together for a while, whatever works for you, we would encourage you to apply. Now, you're also welcome to apply to go into the pollination workshops because you may find other people to connect with through that process. So I would say absolutely, just because you're already formed, we would still welcome you to come in through this process.
Thank you. Lisa, I understand you are involved in the leadership in one of our partnering institutions, IHPI. Could you speak a little bit more about the role of institutes in this initiative, how you think this collaboration will play out?
Great. Thanks so much, Jill. Yes. So I'm lucky to serve as a current member of the IHPI leadership team. And I know that IHPI is very much looking forward to serving as a partner on this initiative. So I think the institutes see a lot of value in bringing together a lot of what they're already doing within their institutes to new parts of campus that they may not already be working closely with. For example, IHPI is co-sponsoring the Better Health Outcomes Through Better Built Environments Challenge with several new partners, including the Ginsberg Center, M-City, Population Studies, as well as the Science Technology and the Public Policy Program. And my understanding is that the institutes will also help identify faculty participants through encouraging them to apply, and will also participate in the selection process. So we hope that institutes can leverage some of this momentum to strengthen or help promote their own ongoing activities in these areas so that there's a multiplier effect that leads to more collaborative research across campus within these particular themes.
Thank you. Dawn, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what a successful team would be for this initiative.
Well, thanks. For teams that are thinking of apply to the Value Creation Forum in the winter, as I mentioned, we're looking for teams that have already been formed through one way or another, working together for a while in a problem that's in the space of one of these 6 bold challenges. We expect the teams to have a disciplinary diversity, and in particular have both social science expertise and technical science expertise. and they're willing and able to go through this value creation forum. It's going to be a reasonable time commitment. I mean, 90 minutes up front, or one day up front, and then 90 minutes every other week. But they're doing things that the teams should be doing anyways, as they're working together towards aiming for an external center proposal. So that's kind of the short story of existing teams with social and technical expertise working in one of the 6 challenge areas.
There is another question from our attendees. How neatly does the proposal have to fit within the defined themes? For instance, is research on gainful employment an appropriate topic, since it clearly intersects with issues like access to healthcare or housing? I'm not sure who wants it. Dawn, do you want to take that one?
I can take that. So I think we're definitely going to prioritize teams that are fitting into these 6 areas. However, what you mentioned, gainful employment, is absolutely related to many of these 6 topics. So if you can think about how the research you're doing on gainful employment relates to these topics, and maybe you come to a pollination workshop and find other people to participate, how housing is related to employment, or how water is related to employment, or the built infrastructure is definitely related to employment. So I think there are opportunities for many different aspects that don't necessarily see themselves in the short stories of the 6 topics to become engaged and add value to the directions that come out of either the pollination or the value creation. So I would encourage you to apply if you think your topic fits within one of the 6 areas.
Thank you. Some more kind of logistical questions here. A faculty member who is interested in a pollination workshop but has a conflict and can't make it, what options are available to them to still participate?
Yes, so we understand we had to pick certain dates to go forwards, but if you're interested in the topic and not able to join on that date, there is an information sheet that you can fill out that's linked from the application form, and give your credentials and your expertise in that area, and we will collect all of that information and distribute it to the people who do attend the workshop in case they want to bring other people along in those after meetings of the workshop. Or other teams may form outside of the pollination workshop. The pollination workshop is just kind of one spark. We understand there's lots of other ways to connect with faculty across campus, and we're trying to enable that to make it as low effort and easy as possible. There's a lot of work to build a team. We try to make the meeting part the easy part.
And another one, so don't unmute yet, Dawn. There's another question about, I think, capacity and staff members. How many do we have in place to provide the facilitation and project management support to the teams?
So that's a good question, Jill. And I think this is probably more a question directed to you, because this is coming out of your research development office. But we're working with the Center for Academic Innovation on campus to do the facilitation of the pollination workshop. So that's where the facilitation is coming in for those specific workshops. For the project manager support for the teams, we're anticipating a handful of teams will go through value creation in the winter. We can only support 5 or 6 teams through that program, and we will give each team about a 20 or 25% of a project manager. So it'll be, one and some of a project managers that will come out of the research development office that will support the teams that go through the value creation. And as we get more teams in the summer with team formation, we'll increase that. But imagining that a project manager can probably support about 4 or 5 teams in the sort of day-to-day, week-to-week activities of team development, tracking, meetings, etc.
Thank you. It is an active collaboration with our partnering institutes who have staff who give facilitations and are very talented facilitators and event planners and project managers. And so we will be working with them. And we have just posted a job today, it's live today, for a couple of project managers who will support these efforts. Those are 2-year limited positions, but they will be the ones who work actively with our teams. And I can put that job posting in the chat in case you want to pass it on to any folks who may be interested. We have another question about, let's see, how many rounds will there be? Well, let's see. They're still kind of inputting that one, our support here. Dawn, why don't you talk about white papers a little bit and expand, since you mentioned that earlier, the goal of the white papers and how we're hoping to ultimately use them.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, the teams that go through either team formation or value creation will write a white paper, 2 pages, summarizing the problem that they're focusing on and the approach that they're taking. And these white papers will be used both with the federal government relations to help give input into what future topics might be coming out in bills that are being written by the House and the Senate, or in the presidential budget request, or with agencies that are developing solicitations. So I think that's one way that we can try to use those ideas in the government. We'll also use them with the development office to engage with donors who I mentioned. Some of them are very interested to fund research that has a specific societal impact. And so I think both of those avenues for those white papers will be explored.
Thank you. Jeff and Lisa, I wonder, you have been doing a lot of meeting with institutes and units and research associate deans and leadership around campus as you're sort of getting acclimated in your new roles in OVPR, but also having conversations about this initiative. I wonder also, because you are active researchers yourself, what's exciting to you about this program that's rolling out and the potential it has? Lisa, why don't you go first?
Sure, let me jump in. So I just want to say, I think the overall concept for this is unique here at Michigan, and just so exciting to be able to support what the really strong tradition and history of multidisciplinary research across campus has been really since the inception of the university, and that this is a framework that will directly support that. I think there are many groups that are eager to participate, and I think that the culture here really supports this kind of work, and that we'll be able to do some really outstanding science and address these cross-cutting problems through this effort.
Jeff?
I think from my perspective, it's about what's most exciting is this idea of developing new processes to help teams get to places where they haven't necessarily been able to get to before. So outside of the expertise that might be represented within a team, this idea of working creatively to kind of expand the problem space that perhaps is most familiar, or to bring other perspectives in to change the way that a disciplinary lens sees a question. And this whole idea of that a kind of energetic, creative event is surrounding the shaping of new questions and setting a trajectory for a research team, for me, is a kind of fascinating development in the way we think about approaching and framing questions as researchers within a university context.
Thank you. So I want to circle back to the question I started, which is, we have a little more information on how many rounds will there be? The relationship of the phases to the timeline is a little confusing. And I think this has to do, Dawn, with the graphic that we have that shows a linear model, but the pollination session and the incubation sessions, which the applications are currently open, those are happening concurrently in January. So it is not a linear timeline.
Well, so it is ideally a linear timeline, but we're going to start at 2 different phases. And I want to make it clear that teams do not have to go through all phases sequentially. Like I said, pollination is a way to bring anybody in who's interested in these areas and has expertise related to them, and we want to make that open. But you do not have to go to a pollination workshop to be able to apply for team formation that will start in the summer. You just need to have a team, an interdisciplinary team that met, like I said, maybe you met at the pollination workshop. Maybe you met on the sidelines at the soccer field. Maybe you met through the Graham Sustainability Institute. Wherever you met and started working together, you can come into the team formation in the summer. And so there's no rule that you have to go through all those phases. And that graphic was intended to indicate that themes can come in through different phases, and they don't all need to go through all 4 phases linearly. This value creation forum, the incubation phase that will also start in the winter, is something very new. And I thought it was an exciting opportunity to get it started, even though teams will not be ready coming out of pollination to go into that value creation forum starting in January. So that has to be teams that are already existing. So if you imagine this as these streams, there'll be multiple streams going on in parallel. We have the pollination workshops in the winter that lead to team formation in the summer and value creation in the fall. There will also be pollination workshops in the spring, summer that will lead to team formation in the fall, and those teams will go through value creation in the winter. So we will run the value creation forum at least 3 times, pollination workshops at least 6, one for each of these topic areas. And so those are it is a complicated thing because you have these things moving on in parallel, but that's the minimum that we are proposing to offer. We will definitely assess it. And if it seems popular and valuable, and we get a lot of too many people applying to attend these, we'll try to work with the centers and institutes and see what they can do to partner with us to offer more opportunities for people who are excited to work on these really important research challenges. So minimum 6 pollination workshops, 3 value creation forums, and in between those, the team formation and continuation phases. And more than that, we'll have to wait and see how it goes.
And I encourage anyone, if you still have questions, you're not sure about how coherent your team is or where you are in the process, to show up to Dawn's office hours to talk more about where you might start in the initiative or where you fit in to start. And also you could reach out to me anytime. You can search research development on the research.umich.edu website, and there are a ton of resources that we can offer, and we're happy to consult with you, not just about this initiative, but funding opportunities you might be looking for or other collaborations, proposal development support and graphic support, and many different kinds of things to help your teams be successful. I think there's a question about the review process, particularly for these two application forms that are open already. Can you talk a little bit about the criteria and how that review process will work? What kinds of things we're looking for applicants?
Yeah, so the criteria for both phases that are open are listed on the website and what we're looking for. And like I said, we're looking for people who have expertise in these areas, who have some preliminary success in getting external grant funding. This is not the program for a fresh assistant professor who showed up on campus last month. I guess it's only October still, September, but people who are a little bit more established and are already working in something related to one of these areas that can be contributing to a team that moves forward. We're definitely looking for diversity. If a team is applying, we want to see both the social sciences and the technical sciences working together in the team, and an ability to articulate a specific problem. For the pollination workshop, as I mentioned, we're going to try to choose a diverse cohort of teams. For example, we might have 3 microbiologists all apply and they all look really good, but we probably don't need 3 microbiologists, so we might need 1. And so we'll try to collect the information from everyone who's interested, but have the right number of people in the room that can really do an in-depth, deep brainstorming over the course of a full day in person with masks, and come up with some really creative and innovative ideas that can move towards the next stage of developing teams. So it's going to be looking for diversity at multiple levels: diversity of career stage, diversity of discipline, diversity of perspectives, to try to get the overall best outcomes in these really exciting research areas.
There's a related question that came in. Could assistant professors without significant external funding, but research on one of the research challenges, such as health equity and access, if they desire to work with established investigators, can they submit an application to this initiative? I think the answer is yes there. If you
of course, the application is absolutely yes, or the answer is absolutely yes. And I think, yeah, an assistant professor who's working in one of these areas, we would very much encourage them to get involved in this initiative. But for an assistant professor that working in one of these interdisciplinary teams would be a big stretch, probably not the right time to make a big stretch to join a big team right when you hit the ground here. But you can certainly apply. We're not telling anyone not to apply, but we will try to bring together that diversity of perspectives in the pollination workshops and in the value creation.
Great. Another question, I'm going to take this one, is around what other RD resources, research development resources are available to faculty members or teams if they're not focused on one of the themes in Bold Challenges. This, piggybacks onto to what I mentioned about our RD services. So in addition to proposal management and workshops and consultations, we're doing facilitations as well. And we'd be happy whether you are a brand new team coming together and sort of figuring out what to do together and how to work together, and you want to do some collaboration planning or early ideating, we can help you with that. If you're a cohered team a little bit further along and you're looking to develop a proposal together and you want to surface the most innovative ideas, we can help you with that as well. So you can reach out to me and we can talk about how we might work together and help you succeed. There are a bunch of other resources around campus. We have research development colleagues in many of the units, as well as the centers and institutes are doing a lot of really exciting coordination and facilitation across various units, interdisciplinary work. So tons of opportunity here, especially for any of you that are early career or new to U of M. Reach out to one of us. We can talk to you a little bit about the landscape of resources and what's available to you to help you succeed. Thank you, Jeff, for putting that in the chat. I appreciate it. And I think we are going to wrap up here, unless any final thoughts, Dawn? Do you want to leave our attendees with?
No, I think I hope people got a lot of their questions answered, and I'm sure there's still more questions. So if you can, Wendy, put up the last slide that has all the contact information for the Bold Challenges website, as well as how to sign up for the what workshops are open for accepting applications, how to apply to the Value Creation Initiative. And I also have a couple of office hours coming up, so you can just stop by over Zoom and ask me some more questions and maybe give me some good ideas, because this is obviously something that we've worked on a lot to develop, and we think it's a pretty good idea, but we will definitely be looking for suggestions as we move through on how we can make this better and how we can really help bring the University of Michigan all the expertise we have across the social and technical sciences to really start to make significant impacts on these really wicked societal challenges. So looking forward to seeing many of you apply and join some of these efforts and to see what comes out of it. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, everyone.